Welcome to the Jamodi podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is Jamodi, just a matter of doing it. The Jamodi podcast is powered by Sideline Interactive. Sideline Interactive is the leading manufacturer for high-quality, innovative scoring tables and LED video display boards that help coaches and schools bring more excitement to fans, create huge fundraising opportunities, and make their jobs easier. Visit sidelineinteractive.com to check out their amazing products. So you have this culture now, and I appreciate you being honest about the fact that when you first came back 4 years ago, it wasn't like that, and you had to really change some things. I'm going to ask the question of what's one thing that makes your program different. You can say more than one. And the reason I say it is because I had Kevin Eastman on. He didn't yell at me, but he was like, I hate the one thing questions. It's never just one thing. So right. I haven't changed the way I've written it down, but what are some things that make your program different?
Yeah, I have more than one as well. And when I saw that question, I was like, hey, how can I narrow it down?
Just one?
I do have it narrowed down to one that I know is unique to Lady Raider basketball, but there's so many other things that add to it as well. And of course, everyone's going to say the family atmosphere and that I unfortunately, I think we use the family environment too much. Like it's a buzzword and we use it too much.
Good call. Yep.
Yeah. But it's true too. I mean, but I think that every recruit has to come in and see if it's the right family for them. And what does that family environment look like? Because it can look different, and it doesn't have to be all warm and fuzzy for it to be a family. But
most families aren't. Most families aren't. Yeah,
for sure. And I do think that our community and our fan support, that is what sets us apart, is that the people really love the Lady Raiders as individuals. But I think the thing that sets us apart now, and this is another thing that's such a new topic and so instrumental in everyone's, whether it's coaches, whether it's players, staff members, whatever, is the mental health game. And we have put together a growth guide. So mental health, people talk about it, right? And people ask questions in the recruiting process as how do you handle mental health of athletes? Because it's a topic these days. It's a trend. And it's not a trend. That's not the right word, but it's important. And
you hear it a bunch. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, a lot of coaches will say, oh yeah, we absolutely address mental health. But do they say that? Do they just address it? Or do they?
What's the plan? What's the plan? Like, can you actually show me? Because to me, and especially in that arena, words are really cheap. The same thing with family. Okay, what you say it's a family atmosphere. How? Like, what do you do to actually create that?
Yes. So I came in, when I got here, I thought there were two spaces that we were really lacking in, and even on my staff or whatever. And that was our social media recruiting, because social media is a huge deal. And I didn't think that the Lady Raiders were on social media enough to spread the word about what we were doing. And then also just the player development piece. And that I don't know why it's called player development, because it should be called personal development, because the player development coach up until this year could not be on the court with the team. So with the players. So it wasn't that they're developing the skill set. They're developing the overall person playing, the student, the overall student athlete. So I thought, so I was fortunate to hire Eric DeRue from Abilene Christian. He was at Abilene Christian as assistant coach, but he had a really great background in social media. His following on TikTok was ridiculous. And I didn't even understand it, but
that's right.
crazy.
Me either.
He has very much a creative mindset and all that. But what really attracted me to him was his degree in psychology. So he had a degree in sports psychology, and he was very passionate about it. And so when his first year here, I really challenged him on the social media piece of it. But then as he saw what I was trying to do for the overall program and for our girls, as far as mental health goes, and just growing these ladies, I mean, like I talked about the transformation earlier, there's so much more to these girls than just playing on the court. And even the academic piece, academics, I'm going to say this, but I think is more important to the girls than it might be on the guys side, because all the guys think they're going to play in the NBA. The girls don't necessarily think that all the time. And so they're more in control. I think they're more passionate about their academics. But then there's the emotional piece of it. And there's even the spiritual piece of it. And there's just that maturity and growing and becoming your own person and making your own decisions and confidence. Like the self-confidence or the lack thereof that young women have kills me. And I do believe that a lot of it has to do with social media, because that's something I didn't have to deal with. And we didn't have to deal with that.
Thankfully, we didn't. Yeah, I didn't either. Yep.
Yeah, or high school. And I don't think I really understood the toll or the pressure or the meanness that occurred on social media until both of my own personal kids went through it. And I didn't even know about it at that time. By the grace of God, I had some people in their lives that were teachers and coaches and whatever that they shared with, and they've told, ended up telling me. And I was like, that's unreal. Like, I can't believe this is happening. And that's why my kids are insecure or not confident or whatever. And it's because, like if a bad picture, like just a bad picture of a kid, of a girl, is put on social media on your sports account, you can make a face. I'm the world's worst. They can't find one good picture of me coaching.
I love that you said that. Yeah.
I'm so animated. And I mean, I'm always, they cannot get a still photo of me smiling. I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm intense. I'm like playing the next play. But when they put those pictures of those girls on that account playing basketball, they get messages, they get DMs of, I can't believe they put that picture of you. I mean, by some people they know, and then some people they don't know. And it's brutal. Even so my son in football, he got lit up one night against a crosstown, against Grapevine, crosstown rival. That clip went viral because he got lit up. And you think, oh, stay off, just don't read it, just stay off. Okay.
Not possible.
That's not possible. Yeah. And then everybody's talking about it, and then everybody's saying terrible things about you and and making you, and then you think you get through it, like a couple of months go by, you get through it. And then maybe the next year or in 6 months, it comes back, it resurfaces, and then you go through it again. And I'm like, this is unreal that these kids have to deal with this. So I was trying to work on some of those things. So we would have guest speakers come in, or we would have team bonding activities, or I just do all kinds of things off the court to try to help our kids. And Eric saw me really struggling because I really didn't have time for that at this level. And I don't want to minimize the other levels, but I just, my time was being more.
You don't have off periods and study halls all day. And
you have boosters and you have donors and you have administrators and you have, coaches, and you're managing so many people, and your time is just pulled in every direction. So he just watched for a year all of the things that I was trying to do, but failing miserably at it because I didn't have enough hands and even thought. I can come up with they'll get a text from me at 2 a.m. because I lie awake at night thinking of all these things, or I'm woken up and like, we need to do this to motivate our kids to win this game. And I'm like sending texts going, hey, let's get to come talk to our kids about this or whatever. And so he made this growth guide. So sorry, long time to get to this growth guide.
No, it's good.
He made this growth guide where it is it's a yearly plan. It is month by month. It is preseason, in season, postseason. And it has certain things that we're doing to either grow our team's chemistry, to grow individual, to grow our staff, to connect our staff to each other, to connect our staff to our players, all these things. And it goes through phases, because clearly during season, you're not going to have quite as much time. And so, we thin it out a little bit, but we still make sure we do it. And he came and brought that to me, and I have been indebted to him ever since, and by just by different things that have worked throughout this off season, he's been elevated to a coaching position. And so he's not the director of player development anymore, but we moved a GA into that spot that was his GA that he was training this entire time. So we haven't missed a beat. And of course he still plays an instrumental role in it. But one of the things that we do in the off season or in the postseason. So like postseason is definitely spring and then some of June. But then when we get our new team here, we immediately start preseason. So I guess we do it in the preseason when our players get here. Is they have a challenge each month. One of the challenges that they have for the month of June is to have a one-on-one coffee, breakfast, lunch, dinner, a meal. They have to share a meal with each teammate. And it can't be in a group. And they need to put their phones down, right? So that they can get to know one another. Because we have found when we're trying to put all these pieces together on a team and we want them to be a family, then they got to know each other. They got to know where they come from. They got to know each other's challenges. And one of the things I've learned as a coach over the years, because I used to be, black and white. Like it's right or wrong, or it's my way or the highway. And this is what we do. And it one size fits all. And I've really had to learn and bend and be like, it's not one size fits all. And everybody learns different. Everybody is coached different. Everybody's heart is different. You've got to get to their hearts. And
when did you get that? When did you learn that? Because I feel like I started out in a very similar way and it's still hard.
I'll tell you. So I think when I was the head coach at West Texas A&M, which I left Texas Tech as an assistant and got the head coaching job at West Texas A&M, and it was basically me and a GA. So I had to do a lot of things. So I was having to do a lot of this team bonding and getting to learn whatever. And my first probably couple of years, I definitely was trying to prove myself and thought I know how to do it. I know what works. And it worked for me. It did at that time until I recruited this really, really good player who was a mom and she had a baby. And I was willing to say, come on and bring the baby and we're going to help you, because I really saw some greatness in her as a player, really wanted to help her as a single mom. I thought that, if she could graduate and get a degree, that was only going to help her and whatever. But with that comes some things.
Yeah.
And bringing her to Canyon, Texas, where she's from Houston, so she didn't have any help. So I had to enlist some of my friends who loved it. So I had been there long enough to develop a good base for not only our team and our program, but also for myself and people that wanted to help the program in any way. And so everybody instantly fell in love with her daughter and really helped. I mean, they were taking her to church on Sunday mornings to give this player a little break. I would keep the baby on,
that's cool.
On Thursday nights, and tried to let her be a college kid in the off season, and Thursday nights were the college nights. Right. And so I tried to show a little compassion and be like, I get it. I want you to go be a college kid, we loved it. Like we absolutely loved it. But in the off season, she didn't show up to a few practices that obviously were mandatory. And her team were like, they were done. They were like, she's not taking this seriously. She's not, she's not, she doesn't care about what we're doing. Like we want to get to the Final Four, the national championship, blah, blah. And so I had to pause at that moment. And I actually had my seniors go look for her she didn't show up. I go, you two go look for her, find her. Cause we need to find her. We need to help her. We need to see what's going on. Let's find out what's going on. Well, they go and find her and she's just in tears. She's at home with her baby, whatever, but she couldn't get her kid picked up at the right time. And also she had had a tragedy that had happened at home and her mom wasn't very helpful anyway. And so she just was having a breakdown. She was absolutely having a breakdown.
It's all bigger than basketball.
Correct. Yeah. Yes. So when they brought her back, they realized it. We had the most amazing team meeting. And I said to them, guys, when y'all have a tough day in basketball, when you have a hard game, when you have a tough day, Coach Gerlich's been on your case, all the things. Who's the first person you call when you walk out the door? And they all, mom, mom or dad, mom, dad. And I said, and what do you do? I go, you just gripe and complain and whatever about Coach Gerlich and how mean she is and how whatever, and she doesn't understand and whatever. And I go, and what does your mom or dad do? You're right, baby girl. Like, yes, she's so mean. She should, they side with you, as they probably should at the moment until they put on a different hat, hopefully. But they side with you. They console you, all those things. And I said, what does she do? Who does she call?
Yeah. Not
only can she not call anybody, she also has this 2-year-old begging for her attention. And that 2-year-old does not understand that mama just went through a 3-hour practice or a game or whatever. And it was so eye-opening to them.
Yeah.
And to me, that you just have to show a little more grace. Right. And so that to me was like, we got to figure out the shoes that each of our players are walking in. And then along those same lines, we do the riser test, which is somewhat like a personality test, but it's more athletic driven. And it basically shows us how to motivate, how to coach, how to console, how to inspire our players. And we also do it for our staff, because our staff is different too. Like our staff, we're going to have hard days too. And so like, they need to know how I respond after a setback. Do I need space? Do I need to talk it out immediately? Do I need somebody in my ear right after a game that we lost of them telling me what we did wrong? Probably not, because I need space. I need a cooling down time. They need to know that about me so that we don't have, but it's been instrumental in us in how we coach our kids.
Yeah.
So we even have this, I'm going to show you this little cheat sheet, which has our kids on here and how they respond after setbacks. It talks about their mental endurance. It talks about if they're a pressure performer. It talks about their coaching style, how they, and so when a kid makes a mistake and we take them out of the game, do they need instant feedback or do they need a cooling off period? And some of them they need hard coaching. They want blunt. So I know that if they're coming off the game, and I know this about them, I can rip them right on the sideline and I'm going to get them refocused and they're going to be ready to go right back in the game. I've had some players where I just have to give a high five to. They walk to the end of the bench. They get their water. They go sit down, cool off. And then an assistant coach gets in their ear and starts redirecting them and going, what did you do wrong? Like, why do you feel like she took you out? And they know. They know. They just need to be redirected at that time and it needs to be handled. So it's the same standards. We just get there a different way. So that's what I want to make sure people understand is like, we're not giving kids a free pass and we're not treating them differently as far as like holding them to a standard. Like, I'm not going to let them get away without boxing out, if we need to box out, but you just can because some kids will shut down. Like you immediately start pounding them and they don't respond that way, they'll shut down. Then you lose them for the rest of the game.
Man,
so it takes a lot to get it to do it, but it's worth it, and so we talk about mental health a lot. And so that's kind of what sets our program apart is that we have a plan. And head coach is invested in it. So that's huge for us in recruiting. It's huge for us because kids, that's a question that they ask. Every kid I get asks, how do you guys deal with mental health?
Wow. That says a lot right there, that it's in every question. And I appreciate you sharing that so much. I think as coaches, we don't want our players to base anything off of hope on the floor. I don't hope that pass will get there. I'm not going to hope that my feet are set. We want to eliminate that word.
Yeah.
I think what are two ways where coaches do base a lot of hopes at times, how their kids deal with social media and how their mental health is. They just hope it's good. I hope they're all right. I hope that when they see these things that they understand how to navigate and dodge and work through this world. A lot of people will say that players are the same as they were, 20, 30 years ago. And there's some, like you said, the standards have to be held with blocking out. Like that's the same. But what's really different, the phones and everything that's being thrown at them, attacking them, and mental health is different.
Yes.
And so for us to turn a blind eye or to just hope that that works out, I think you're probably going to be either losing your job or find out that your culture's in a really bad spot pretty quick.
Yeah. I just think, kids are different these days. The environment's different. Like there's so many different things, and I would consider myself, I was a very mentally tough player. I could take the coaching, whatever, but it was different back, it was my dad, first of all, which I take into account now, that because I realized that he was going to love me no matter what, but all kids don't feel that way about their coach if they don't have the right relationship. I wasn't being hounded on social media by anybody or getting anybody else's opinion or, those types of things. I wasn't reading message boards or anything like that. So it is different, but I just think there's so many things in this world today that are going after our kids that we've got to help them compartmentalize those things. And really, we have to give them a skill set to handle adversity and to handle setbacks. And I think that's where it's been different. Everybody's raising is different. And, it's incredible to me, even going through the recruiting process, and you try to learn as much as you can about kids, and we try to get the right fit. And there are some kids that I can immediately talk to and know that they're just not a good fit for me. And that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. They may, it might even just be philosophy wise. And I would say that was the thing with the locker room that I inherited and the locker room that I have now, is that even just the philosophy itself was different, because the philosophy of the former coach, and she was very successful at places doing this, was the 3-ball. They did not play defense. They wanted to hurry up and get the ball back so they could shoot the 3. And she told people that, we want to hurry up and get the ball back so we can get, some points on the board.
That defensive culture is going to be very different if you walk into that situation, for sure.
Right. Yeah. Yes. And I'm sitting there just pounding defense. And they're going, Coach, I just want to shoot the 3, and I'm like, oh, okay, we're going to have a problem with that. So that piece of it, but then also just, I really try to, I really try to recruit kids that understand the Lady Raider impact that they have here. And again, go back to that word, responsibility. And I want kids that want that responsibility. I had a kid in that first locker room that said, we can't go anywhere without being, recognized or told on or whatever. And that was a negative in her eyes. And then I jumped on it immediately and I said, you're exactly right. You can't go anywhere in Lubbock without someone knowing you're a Lady Raider. And that's a privilege.
Yeah.
And a responsibility. And that's the kids that I want to know that we're at a place where they care. And that's who's going to come fill up that arena and buy tickets to support you. And, it's just a different mindset. So, I just think and my point of that too is we can still get kids in our program that all those things are correct, and I don't like saying check boxes because it sounds like we're going, oh, check, where we're not. It's a fit. It's a definite fit, but they can get here and then I can learn about some things in their past or some things that they've gone through that are tough for them and that we might never know about until a certain situation might trigger it. And then it could make the house come crumbling down. And we've had to deal with that. And I think that's where our culture has been built, is that Lady Raiders that have graduated from us now are telling their story and telling other recruits about the compassion that we have, and that we don't just sign them because they're great basketball players, that we see them as people, and that we want to make them the best version of themselves, not just the best player they can be. And this is what I tell people. And I said this of one of the first speaking engagements that I went to when I got the job at Tech. And my dad, who's my biggest fan, was sitting in the stands and or in the audience. And he was so proud that I was back home doing all this. And of course, probably still in his mind, he doesn't say this to me, but probably in his mind, a little critical of the way I do things, whatever, like maybe.
You're too soft, Autumn. You're too soft.
Something along those lines. Well, I said in this speech, whatever that I was doing, speaking engagement, I said, I didn't come here to win championships. Like, I came here to build champions. And he was like, why would you say that? And I was like, Dad, if we're building champions, we're going to win championships.
Yeah.
We're absolutely going to win championships, but it's a bigger picture than that. Like, we're building champions for life. And that's what's really happening here at Texas Tech in the Lady Raider program. And I think, go back to the original question, even like that's one of the things that sets us apart.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the Jamodi podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.